All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I'm leading us on the path towards databases. And what I did in the last several lectures was just give you an introduction. And I went out online and I found this book. Now, it's a little dated, it's about 10 years old, but the good news is SQL in the last 10 years hasn't really changed very much. And I want you to realize this book is on SQL. It's not on MySQL, which is what I'm talking about. MySQL is a derivation, or it's a version of SQL. So is Oracle, so is Access, and there are a lot of relational database management software packages. But I found this book online, and one of the reasons it was online and it's free is it is an older version. And again, you can Google it, but if you just go out to a beginner's guide SQL 3rd edition, I just wanted to show you something about that. There it is, and there is a newer version out. Okay, this is the same book. It's changed color from blue to green. Notice if I go to the third one, and I go to e-reading, this is where I got it from. So if you are interested in following along, here is the associated URL. Cut that down a little bit size-wise, and I will. That's about as big as I can get it. So it's at http://www.e-reading.club/bookreaders.php/141481/SQL in uppercase _beginner %60s _guide.pdf. All right, so that's what I will be using in here, but I did want to mention one more thing, and that is if you go out and if you want the 4th edition, and I found this out later, but because I've already started to work on these. But if you go out to Safari Books and you go to Start Reading, you get a free trial. And if you look in there was someplace in here. I didn't have to do it through Safari. Well, suffice to say, I know it's in there. You can buy the book, of course, but there was, it looked like it was an online free version. Free online version of. This is one of the reasons I decided to go with the 3rd version. But I want to show you this. This is going to literally be a very short presentation. I'm already at 3 minutes, but there is no way in heck that I want to do as many lectures as there are chapters in this book. In other words, I'm not going to go over everything. I'm going to go over part 1, relational databases and SQL, which is kind of an intro, and it's very similar to some of the stuff I've already talked about. There are a few other things. I'm going to go over chapter 2 very quickly, working with the SQL environment. But I want to spend more time on 3, creating and altering tables, 4, enforcing data integrity, 5, for now I'm just going to skip that, 6 I'm going to skip on views and managing database security, but then I want to hit hard chapters 7 through 12. Chapter 7 is on querying, it's bigger. Chapter 7 is on querying SQL data. Chapter 8 is on modifying SQL data. So notice with querying there's select, where, group by, having, and order by, so we'll talk about all those. Chapter 8 is on modifying SQL data, and that's the CRUD, so that's create, update, and delete. Read is up here. Now chapter 9 is on using predicates, between, in, exists, etc. Chapter 10 is on what are called some of the aggregate functions, count, sum, average, min and max, and a few of the other ones. Chapter 11, which I'm also planning on going through. 11 and 12 are the hardest two chapters that we'll have to go over. Chapter 11 is on accessing multiple tables. So it's the idea that if you have information but you need to bring together information in multiple tables, a join is how you do it. And chapter 12, which is the last chapter I'm going to go over, is using subqueries. I'm not going to go over chapter 13 on invoked routines, 14 on triggers, 15 on cursors, 16 on transactions, 17 is accessing from your host program, not going to go over that. 18 XML data, not going to go over that. If there's time, I might go and take a look at the answers to the self-tests and or the keywords and or the code used in the exercise. All right? Also, last thing I'll mention for this on this particular tape, the author has his own database in here. And it is a database that works with different music types, all right, and in CDs and all sorts of other stuff. So you can see it's a little bit dated. I fixed it because as it was, it didn't work, but I fixed it. And if you notice, this says, okay, if I already have a database named music, get rid of it. That's where the if exists comes in. I've taken all keywords and tried to capitalize them so you can see exactly what capital letters are as opposed to non-caps. So after you've dropped the database, if it existed, you create the music database, you make the music database active, then you start to create your tables. So there's a music types table, a CD labels table, a compact discs table, a compact discs type table, an artist table, an artist CDs table. And even though I'm really not going to talk about views, and all a view is it's a saved query, there's a view here, and there's a view here. So we'll talk a little bit about those. And then we insert our information into the tables we've created. So there's the data that goes into the music types table. There's the data that goes into the CD labels table. Here's the data that goes into the compact discs table. Here's the data that goes into the compact disc types table. Here's the artist table. And here are the CDs table. All right. And I'm going to go, just so you see this, I'm going to go into here. Let's go into, I've already created the databases just to make sure they worked. But let's just do this. MySQL minus u root. All right, now I'm going to grab this whole file, which you really shouldn't do because it's 200 lines. I should really break it up, but I'm going to grab all of it. Control A, Control C. Then I'm going to come into here because I'm into MySQL. All I have to do is right mouse click, and it's put all the information in for me. So it's all in there. And the good news is if you look your way through here, you'll notice there aren't any error messages. When something completes, it'll tell you how many rows were affected. But notice I did come in and I dropped, get rid of existing database. So I dropped it, and it said dropped. It says 8 rows affected because that's the number of tables that I have. All right. So now if I go back in and take a look at this, I'm just about through with this lecture. And I do a show databases to show my different databases. You'll notice that one of the ones in there is music. So if I use music to make it active, and I say show tables, those are the tables that I put in. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tables. So I can describe any of these tables, so I can type in describe artists, for example. And it says the artist table has 3 fields in it. One named artist ID, one that named artist name, and one that's named artist place of birth. You notice that the ID is a primary key. It's auto-incrementing, so it'll automatically number for us. None of these fields allow null. All right. And now I can look at the data that's in there. So I can say select star from artists. And there's my artists. All right. And just so you know, this artist, that's the information that was right here. So I took that information that's right there, created a table to hold it, and then put that information right into the table, just so you can kind of see these side by side here. All right, so in the next lecture, I'm going to come back, go into the book, but I'm going to bounce back and forth between what's in the book and what we have right here. So I'll be back with that very shortly.